Welcome back to the Jenn and Becca Podcast. I am Becca, and this is my dear friend
Jennifer. Jenn.
Jennifer, and Jenn for short. Those who know her and love her well, I guess, call her Jenn. Is that right?
That is correct.
We took a little bit of a break during the holidays, but we are back in full force. Jenn was a little under the weather, and thankfully she is well again.
Yes. Thankfully, I am well again.
Yeah.
And nobody else, well, a couple of other people in my family got a little bit off, but it wasn't too bad. So
Good. Well, I'm glad. Well, and we haven't talked but through text message over the past month. And so I have missed your face so much.
Oh, thank you. I know I've missed you so much, and you look beautiful today.
Oh, and so do you. And we did not plan the matching sweaters.
We did not. No.
We are.
Oh my gosh, it's so cold and dreary here. It is like this. Okay, it is my least favorite weather in the world. It is 33 degrees and raining.
Ugh.
Like, why?
In Florida, let me check to see what it is right now, but we've lived here for over 10 years now, and I think the lowest it's ever gotten is like 38, 36, 38 degrees at night. It was at 30 degrees, and I'm like panicking that my succulents are gonna die because if their leaves freeze, forget it. Right now, thankfully, it's 60. But yeah, it's been horribly cold. Like I escaped the Northeast for Florida weather, and this is just not fair. I feel like. But before we get started, I wanted just to throw out a little disclaimer. Everything that we talk about on this podcast is that of our own opinion, our own worldview, and we try to add a biblical lens to what we talk about. Everything is, how do I put this? It's our own opinion, so don't sue us for what we're going to talk about because we are protected.
Innocent. Yeah, we've got some stories, and we're going to talk about some hot topics today. We've got some stories that are they're trending news stories. They're unfolding as we speak. And so, the information that we have is true to the best of our knowledge, but it is rapidly changing and evolving. And so we're going to do our best to give you the latest and greatest and most interesting information. But, we are people and we are not all knowing like God. So
praise God for that. Yes, we do make mistakes, and thank God we're protected by the First Amendment, right? We have freedom of speech in America, and we are allowed to express our own opinions. So that's what the purpose of this podcast is, to shed light on children that are suffering in the silences of abuse from a child advocacy perspective. And so we're going to jump right in and dive into some of these topics. How do you feel about that, Jenn?
I think that sounds great. And when you mentioned freedom of speech in America, one of the things I was reminded of is how shocked I was when I wrote my first book to learn about UK defamation laws. Because see, here in America, if someone accuses you of defamation, they have to prove that you lied. They have to prove that you knowingly spread falsehoods about them for the purpose of damaging their reputation or their career or what have you. They have to prove that you did that. In the UK, it's the other way around. If someone accuses you of defamation, you have to prove that you're not lying. And so what that means is, say a victim says, I was raped by so-and-so, and he says, this is defamation. She then has to prove that he's a rapist. The responsibility is on her to prove that what she's saying is true. And if she can't prove it, he can sue her. Which brings us very nicely to one of the stories you want to talk about. Andrew Tate has been credibly accused multiple times of crimes such as abuse, accused, and this young woman who is an abuse survivor, her name is Samantha Smith. She was talking about these allegations against Andrew Tate, and his response was that he is going to sue her.
Yep.
And they are both in the UK, so this is scary stuff. I mean, even in the US, it's scary stuff. I mean, someone can accuse you of defamation, and yes, they have to prove that you did it, but you've still got to fork out thousands of dollars to hire a lawyer, to file the right paperwork, to do all, to negotiate with their lawyer. Like, it's a whole mess. It's
Yeah.
awful. But in the UK, it is 100 times worse. 100 times worse.
Okay, so before we were interrupted by Jen's husband, Jason, calling. Thanks, Jason. We were talking about Samantha Smith. She created a post on X. She has since deleted it, so I can't even tell you what that post said exactly. Do you remember?
No, I don't. I only saw it after the fact.
Yeah, me too. On the post that she made after she took that one down, it says, FYI, I deleted my post on Andrew Tate. I'm barely 20 and have spent the past few days reliving the worst years of my life in the public eye. That does some stuff to you. Have some grace, please. So then she tagged, I think it was Andrew Tate. He has a couple different X accounts.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing. And he has a brother who's like his evil twin.
Yeah, seriously. You can stop the threats of legal action. I'm sorry, I'm quiet. So let's just dissect that a little bit. She expressed her opinion on something that made him look bad. If I had to guess, it might be something about how he is, under investigation for human trafficking and a massive amount of women.
Could be that.
Also minors. It could possibly be that.
Maybe.
But then he contacted her.
Yeah. Publicly on Twitter.
Publicly and said that he was going to sue her if she did not take it down. She took it down. She has been forced into silence at this point by Andrew Tate. By the way, she just went public about how, I believe, I could be wrong, she was, let me make sure I use the right word, Muslim gangs, which sounds weird when you say.
Yeah, somehow it sounds worse.
It does.
I actually hate it worse.
I do too.
And I realize we have to do that because otherwise the algorithms won't show anybody our videos, but
yeah.
But yeah, so Andrew Tate, she posted this apology. She said, and this is actually really interesting. So she said, she posted an apology after he threatened her, apparently. She said, my assertions were false, and Romanian courts found the allegations against them baseless. I was wrong to tweet what I did and apologized for doing so. I will not say anything further on them and will cease speaking about their case. But X has these lovely little things called community notes.
Yes.
And it says readers have added context that they thought people might want to know.
Yes.
And someone added on the community notes, says Andrew and Tristan Tate face charges in Romania for human and in December 2024, a court paused their trial over procedural errors but did not dismiss charges. Legal proceedings are ongoing and both deny all allegations. End quote. Andrew Tate then responded, nobody feels sorry for you. You attacked us first. See you in court.
Could argue that he attacked women and minors first, and so he should expect the entire child advocacy, Me Too movement, fill in the blank, to come after him full force.
Absolutely. Every parent on earth, any adult human with any decency is going to be disgusted. So, cause and effect, Andrew, cause and effect. And nobody feels sorry for you, bud.
Yeah. So. I love that if you go down just a few comments, you see a comment by Bambi Leah, who says the charges against the Tates haven't been dropped, they've increased. And if you click on Nathan Livingstone Milk Bar TV, interesting, there's a whole thread of victim testimony of audio recordings. Now, yes, we live in an age of AI, but there is ways to determine whether or not that was AI created. And
Yeah.
if we think for 1 second the courts don't have access to that technology, we would be naive.
Oh, yeah.
So when you look at all this evidence, I mean, you have women coming out saying the same thing consistently who don't know each other, who have never met each other. But
Mm-hmm.
they say how Andrew did the boyfriend method, which I don't know that we've talked about very much, but we can absolutely elaborate on what that grooming method
Yeah.
looks like,
Yeah.
where a predator gains access to you by being very romantic,
Friendly, charming.
friendly, gaining trust, just showering you with gifts and adoration. And then when you give in, they do horrible things. Narcissism runs deep in people like this. And so there's all kinds of abuses that happen. But in this thread, he shows 4 victims who are saying that he viciously them. And on recording, he sent audio messages to them after saying how much he loved it, how much he loved how much they hated it.
Ugh.
Yeah, no, and like the details in their accounts are creepily similar.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's an MO,
Yeah.
that's pattern behavior. So somebody, I think it's actually a troll, somebody who is actually pro Tate,
Yeah.
maybe
No,
even
he has a
maybe,
whole misogynistic army on his side that is
yes.
just gross.
Yes, but they posted a screen capture of what is presumably her original tweet. And what she says is that Andrew Tate, is a Muslim man who groomed and British girls.
Yeah.
So she's connecting him to this whole pattern that we're seeing of immigrants coming to the UK, forming gangs and preying on British children and British women.
Yep.
She's connecting
Well,
him to that.
and I even did a compilation video a couple months ago when all this stuff came out because Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan, I think that's his name,
Yes.
they have verbally admitted to many of these things. How they even have, what's it called? There's a university that they created, Pimping Hose University or something like that. Something crazy.
But it's just out of just shock. The
It's just gross.
The things that these guys get away with, it's unfair. They're so over, and they brag about this stuff openly.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's going to sue somebody for defamation for talking about what he himself has talked about doing?
No.
Like that.
Yeah, so he romanticizes human with the boyfriend method. He gains access to these young girls, and I think the youngest girl was 14 who has alleged allegations against him. And he builds their trust. He has created a business system that puts these girls on webcam for things like OnlyFans and TikTok and whatever else, Snapchat. And on video right now, he is bragging about how one of those girls made him over $40,000 in 1 month. Define that for us. Is that not human?
Yeah.
That's at the least child exploitation if that girl was less than 18 years old.
Oh, absolutely. It's horrific. That's, and I would also add that this apparent practice, I assume he's, done this before, threatening this Samantha Smith with a lawsuit. That's a classic abuser tactic,
Yeah.
He not only, because he's not doing this for the money, he's got money. And she's like, she said barely 20. She's an abuse survivor. She doesn't have money. So this
Right.
isn't about money. This has nothing to do with money. This is all about him scaring her, but also anybody else who's watching this situation, because there are others who might want to accuse him, possibly have, credible evidence, credible testimony against him. And so this is his way of very publicly scaring anyone who might accuse him into silence.
Yeah.
That's what this is. It's a bully tactic. And like I said earlier, in the UK, their laws are messed up. They're messed up. So if he accuses someone of defamation, they then have to prove that they didn't lie. It leaves victims wide open for predators to utilize the courts to abuse them further.
Yeah. Well, and it's also the last step of grooming patterns and behavior, coercion. They will do everything they can to control the survivor, even if that means threats of lawsuits, threats of harm, threats of taking away provision or protection or whatever the case is. This is grooming 101.
Yeah. But he clearly doesn't care what anybody thinks of him. He's very proud of who he is and what he's done. His whole game is keeping victims or alleged victims silent so that they don't testify against him. Because if they don't testify, the police don't have a case and the police won't do anything, or they can't do anything, and the courts won't do anything. And obviously, we're seeing with these gangs, these predatorial, perverse gangs, that the law enforcement in the United Kingdom isn't up to the task, is either corrupt or negligent or both.
Well, there's definitely an element of what I would call corruption, but what others would call more woke, because this whole Muslim gang controversy is exposing the fact that the UK let a ton of migrants come in, and then when crimes would happen, they wouldn't prosecute them because they were afraid that they would be called racist. So you have groups of men, and we're starting to see it in the United States because of the open border policy, who are preying on young women. And I would even say young boys. I don't think a whole matters to these perverse people.
No, they're just monsters.
Yes, they're just monsters. So you have an element of corruption because people are not being prosecuted the way that they should be for heinous crimes against people. You have an element of wokeism because they're not being prosecuted because of their skin color. I don't know. That's just what I'm seeing on the outside looking in. And then you have an element of religion here. So if we peel that back a little bit, the majority of the people, including Andrew Tate, have claimed Islam as their religion and as their justification for these actions. And if I recall correctly, Andrew Tate even kind of flirted with Christianity. Tristan flirted with Christianity.
Which is so weird to me. It's so weird. I just, like, these guys, they're amoral. They have no conscience. Like, why do they care about religion? Like, it doesn't.
The only reason that they care, in my opinion, so take it for what it's worth, is because Islam enables them to have multiple intimate relationships. You look at one of the prophets of Islam, who is Muhammad. He married Aisha, I think that was her name, or Aisha, or something like that. Aisha. Yes, when she was 6. Consummated, historical documents say they consummated their marriage at 9. And then on top of that, Islam enables you to have a polygamous relationship. So you have Andrew and Tristan Tate, who have major influence over the men of today's day and age, teaching them how to use the boyfriend method to groom women and girls to do their bidding, make them fall in love with you. They will do whatever you want so that they can steal money from them. They can solicit them, they can exploit them, they can make money from them off of social media. So it's crazy to me that we have a rampant issue in the UK of these gangs, these Muslim gangs, and at the same exact time, we have 2 extremely influential people who are still on house arrest for allegations of human and we're not going to be able to publish this video with how many times we said this word.
I think
Serious
we should
evidence.
just give up at this point. You know, Zuckerberg, he came out saying that Facebook and Instagram are going to be nicer and they're going to take out like some sort of fact-checking
Yes.
algorithm and stuff. So I'm just crossing my fingers that we can
I'm
stop
hoping.
saying,
Yes. Like 2
because
days later, after Zuckerberg came out and said that, I got a notification from Instagram that I am now eligible for subscriptions again. After
yay!
well, I'm not doing it.
Oh,
Screw them. I will set it up on my website. You're not taking any of my money. No, but like I've worked really hard to create content and to create resources for people to help fight against child abuse and neglect and all the stuff. And so by joining my subscription, you get exclusive training and content and all that stuff. Well, they promoted it to me saying I was eligible. And then I get it all set up, and then they take it down without me knowing. And then they say, oh, we made a mistake. You are eligible. But you got to be careful because you talk about very controversial things that cannot be monetized, whatever. So then, without even telling me, they canceled my subscription of after being months up, like an active. And I then had, I don't even know how many subscribers, and they just refunded all of them. And they took down my content and with no explanation, nothing.
yeah.
So I
wouldn't.
for
I
lack of
wouldn't
better
trust them
words,
again either.
go pound sand Meta because I'm creating a website that will put all that stuff on there. Instead, go look at my website because I'm done with Meta.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, I was demonetized on YouTube way back a long time ago. And I think I was even talking about abuse at the time. Like I was talking about Christian theology, like really basic stuff, and got demonetized, tried to appeal it. They never respond. So no idea.
That's a perfect chance for us to talk about our sponsor for today, who is TUVU. TUVU, I actually just had a meeting with them yesterday about how they are bringing lots of Christian influencers over onto their platform who have been shadow banned. And even if they're not even talking about controversial things on Meta or TikTok, they're just, doing little Bible studies. It just seems like there is a rampant attack against the evangelical community on social media. So if you would like a little social media detox, more encouragement, more content that points you to God, check out TUVU. You can check out the show notes for a free 30-day trial.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love TUVU. So get over there. I have exclusive content over there also that you can access for only $5 a month. I mean, it's a great deal for wholesome content.
Yes, absolutely. Cheaper than X, actually.
Yeah. I guess, this whole world of over sexualizing people has really run rampant in recent days. I feel like we're living in the times of Sodom and Gomorrah with OnlyFans. If we just talk about OnlyFans the shift that it has caused in our society, we could probably sit here for hours just discussing that.
Yeah.
But I know you and I have both seen Lily Phillips, poor girl, needs Jesus. My heart breaks for her. She's believed the lie that Satan has shared with women since nearly the beginning of time. She has this spirit of Jezebel in her. And I just think that Christians need to be praying for her more than condemning her. We should certainly have a heart of compassion, but at the same time, call things for what it is because she has a demonic spirit.
I'm less sympathetic, honestly. I view her as an abuser, honestly. I just think she's an abuser who happens to be pretty. That's all it is. The way she for background, she's the gal who made it her mission to sleep, and I'm using the word sleep very loosely, with 100 guys in a day. So that's disgusting. Like, it's objectively disgusting. Like, even if you are a porn addict, you should go, ugh. Like, that's, ugh.
Russell Brand had a video about it, and for him to say, I used to sleep with anybody that was willing to sleep with me, but this is like
Over the
This is
top.
bad. This is over the top. How
So
do you even,
gross.
like, come out of this alive at the end and not feel
It's
just
up there with licking the floors in a public bathroom. It is nasty. It is
and
nasty.
I would add to that the public bathrooms in, like, Jacksonville Beach where, like, there are, like, literal crabs trying to crawl out of the toilet. Well, go lick those bathrooms. That's probably gonna be
It's
better and
probably
safer for you.
safer. Yeah, it's probably, you might get pinched, but I mean,
I mean, but her new goal
is
is
a
1,000 men in less than 24 hours.
which
And
is
I think
not
I
logistically possible.
I think the thing that's even more jaw-dropping to me than the act itself is the fact that her parents are managing her.
Yeah, I can't wrap my head around that. I just
Unless the dad and the mom are both also, like, predators.
see, honestly, I'm a little confused about that because I read that, but then I
Uh-huh.
also read an interview where she seemed to indicate that they didn't want her to have this lifestyle.
I don't know because I saw an interview with her.
Hmm.
And in that interview, she literally takes a man who's very young. He must be like in his low 20s, and his girlfriend's in the room and she offers to sleep with him. The girlfriend's right there. And in that interview, she says that her mom is the one who helped her figure out like the schematics behind it. She said to accomplish 1,000, she's going to need to be in a room with 2 doors and men going out both of the doors. And that was her mother's idea. And her dad helps her manage her finances. So I don't know. I think it is insane to me that her parents would condone it at all.
That's
And if they're
bizarre.
not, then praise the Lord for that because I
No,
can't
I
even
think you're
think
correct. I mean, it may be that the interview I saw was old or something like that.
it's amazing how money can buy people's, like,
Souls.
yeah. I mean, not physically, right? We know that all of us are owned by the Lord,
Yeah.
created and owned by the Lord, and whether or not we give in to our flesh or we decide to follow Christ, that ultimately is on us. And if you believe in predestination and all that, those schematics, those second level issues are neither here nor there, right? But the fact is that there's people that are willing to turn a blind eye to evil and sin for an amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And just actively participate and turn over to it. And I mean, I thought that Lily was, I mean, obviously, I felt sorry for her as someone who perhaps, I mean, I was wondering about her background. Was she abused as a child? Like, why would she willingly become involved in this kind of work? Like, why
Well,
would
I
she? And,
watched I
but
watched
then,
something preparing for this podcast episode. I watched her sit down with I don't even know who it was off the top of my head, but
mhm,
she said that she was more promiscuous before she got paid for it. And when she realized she could go on OnlyFans and get paid for the same activity that she was already doing,
mhm.
she was like, why wouldn't I do that?
Okay.
So she was already whoring around
Mhm.
before OnlyFans was a thing, and then OnlyFans came out and she's like, "Oh, I'll just monetize my horror skills." And now she is worth $16 million. So that begs another question. Who are these men that are willing to pay for these subscriptions on OnlyFans?
Yeah,
Like,
that's literal culture. I mean, that's a whole generation, if you will, of men who devalue women, have terrible relationships with their wives, girlfriends, mothers, etc. They're terrible fathers, and I'll guarantee you they are husbands and fathers. A lot of them are.
it's
And
dreadful.
a lot of them are very likely abusers because they're the kind of men who view women as objects. They view women as things designed for their lustful pleasure and not as human beings, not as equals, not as people who they should get to know, who they should care about, who they should be interested in any kind of intellectual capacity. They view women as basically like biological sex dolls. That's how they view women. And so that's what she's turned herself into. But what really honestly like lost any sympathy for me, from me for her, was when I saw the video of her walking into a Five Guys hamburger restaurant.
Yes.
She
Let me pull
approaches
that up.
this young man who I don't know who this young man is. I don't know how old he is. He looks like he might be a teenager. He looks young.
Mm-hmm.
And she immediately begins propositioning him and saying highly sexual, completely inappropriate things that
Are you sure that's the same person?
what do you
That's
mean?
Lily Phillips was the one who did that video at
I
Five Guys?
was until you asked me that. Is there a reason to think it wasn't her? I'm
Well,
pretty
when
sure it
I
is.
originally saw the video, I mean, it didn't click that that was her, but, do you
Yeah,
have that video? I'm trying to
uh,
find it, because when I type in Lily Phillips Five Guys, it doesn't come up, and I would think that that would come up.
oh, really?
Yeah. So I wonder if I type in OnlyFans and then Five
So it
Guys.
says OnlyFans star tried coming on to this Five Guys employee.
Yeah, so her name is actually Bonnie Blue, and she's one of Lily Phillips' like competitors on OnlyFans.
Oh, they're like clones.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let me just
Wait, where is it?
yeah, so but regardless, so this OnlyFans culture,
Yes.
I get sent videos all the time from my followers on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of the videos that was sent to me. Another profile of a girl who is on OnlyFans was sent to me, and I was tagged in a video as a collaborator because she is romanticizing the relationship between teacher and student. She is what it looked like. She was a teacher at a university, Lincoln University in
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania. I dug into it more and found her real name. She's a student there, and she's pretending in many of her videos to be either a tutor or a teacher preying on kids. Obviously, there's college kids, but I know plenty of people who went to college as homeschool students that were still minors. So
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
romanticizing that relationship on OnlyFans, and she has hundreds of thousands of followers who are
yeah,
being desensitized to
yeah.
the fact that teachers and students should never be in a romantic relationship.
Well, in most states, in many states anyway, I don't know about most, but in many states, it's considered statutory for a teacher to become involved with a student like that. Same with
Yeah.
like a doctor and a patient, or a pastor and congregant, a therapist and their counselee. There's certain lines when you're in a position of authority. There's certain lines you do not cross, and
Yes.
sexualizing that, making that fetishized, it's borderline criminal, and it really ought to be considered criminal in my opinion. Well, that's one
Yeah.
of the things that really bothers me about Lily Phillips' whole stunt with the 100 guys or 1,000 guys in a day. What she's doing is she's fetishizing human, because
Yes.
that's what human victims are subjected to. I don't know if it's 100 guys a day, but it's a lot. You know, even if it's one guy a day, that would be way too much. But a lot of you
Yeah.
hear these horror stories of these victims who are by dozens of men every day. And she's turning this into a lark. She's turning this into a game, a fetish. That's disgusting. And
Yeah.
so, it's just they'll talk about how this is freedom of expression. This is, as a woman, it's my right to, my body, my whatever. But no, you're not a feminist. You're not a role model. You're not ahead of the curve in anything. You're not progressive. You are normalizing the abuse of women and children.
Mhm.
That's what you're doing.
And some people would argue that prostitution is the oldest career known to man.
Yeah.
And so that what should make it okay? That should make it less demeaning? What? I don't understand where that argument means that it's okay.
Yeah. It doesn't. Yeah. No, it's just absolutely repulsive.
But ladies, we can do better than what our society is deeming appropriate for us. We have to understand that God designed us in a way to have amazing worth and value. He says that our value is far greater than every precious jewel on the face of the earth. And that's because we are life bearers. We can raise up a generation of people that are God fearing, that have integrity and dignity, and understand the impact that they can have on our culture.
Yeah.
So, God gives us a lot of inherent worth and value that this culture is lying to you about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm just overwhelmed, honestly, by the amount of misogyny that's
Mm.
mainstream in our culture. And I know this isn't a new thing. I mean, heck, I grew up, with child abuse. I grew up with a dad who was a porn addict. So, you'd think these things wouldn't shock me anymore. But when you see people like Andrew Tate getting platformed by Benny Johnson on
Mm.
his show. And, Benny Johnson, he's a husband. I believe he has 4 children. I believe he
Yeah.
has daughters. He, it's like you look him up and it's like he claims to be conservative. He claims to have these Christian roots. And it's like, dude, no. No, no,
Yeah.
no. You do not get to claim to be conservative and then promote someone who is so obnoxiously and overtly against family values, women,
Yeah.
Christian values. Like this, you don't get to do that.
Well,
Ah,
it's amazing. Benny Johnson's little tagline on X is "Let's save Western civilization together." And the announcement that he made on X saying that Andrew Tate was going to be on his show is Andrew Tate will join the Benny show live tomorrow to discuss Trump's political persecution and New York City show trial sentencing and the political future of Top G. What in the world makes him think that a Muslim from where's Andrew Tate even from?
I don't know where he's
I
from. He's currently in London.
Yeah, but what makes him think that a Muslim who is in the thick of an investigation for human and women is what's going to help save Western civilization?
And who cares what he thinks about American politics?
I don't.
Like, even if he wasn't a sexual predator, I wouldn't care what he thought about like I just wouldn't care. Like,
Yeah.
why? Why him? Like, ugh. I could understand. Now, if he were going to have him on to ask him about the accusations against him,
Yeah.
that would be
Sure.
one thing. It'd be like interviewing, well, he's dead now, but OJ Simpson or something like that. It's like, yes, we think he's a terrible person, but, there could be journalistic value in interviewing him. I get that. But what?
Yeah.
Trump being persecuted? Like, you really want to interview Andrew Tate, he brags about being a misogynist, being a predator, but then he also complains about being persecuted by the Romanians, by law enforcement, by these terrible women who
So is he
complain.
comparing himself to Trump and that's why they brought Tate on?
I have no idea. It's
God, I
like,
hope not.
well, I think it is. I think it is. I think that's what Tate is trying to do. He's trying to paint himself as someone who is persecuted and falsely accused.
But isn't this exactly what your common predator groomer does?
100%.
They
Basically everyone.
but literally they groom the community to make you believe they are one way when behind closed doors they are a completely different way.
Mm-hmm.
Then they gain the trust of their victims that they're targeting. They desensitize them, they isolate them, and then they coerce them. And in the background, the whole time, they're continuing to look like these wonderful citizens
Mm-hmm.
of whatever community they have infiltrated. Like, this is grooming 101, and the people that are still listening to what this man has to say as if there's any value in it, they are they have been groomed by this individual.
No. And the thing that is wild to me is he's such an extreme version of that type of predator. Like, he is so overt. He's practically bragging about the bad things he does. And I really think that a lot of his fans are actually abusers and predators who think it's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious that he does the things he does and gets away with it. They think he's super clever. He clearly thinks he's super clever. Like, I'm just scrolling through his timeline right now, and it's just...
Yeah, no, I agree. They have been trained by a professional hustler groomer
Yeah.
on how to prey on women. It's Pimp and Hose degree, I think it's called. Yes. It's the group chat featuring 12,000 pages of encrypted messages indicated that the group taught a Pimp and Hose degree course, abbreviated to PhD, Pimp and Hose degree, using techniques to romantically seduce, emotionally manipulate, and socially isolate women before luring them into performing on webcams. A legal expert in human from Bucharest described the course as using all the practices of the lover boy strategy, which is also known as the boyfriend method for grooming. That's according to Wikipedia, so take it for what it's worth.
That's
But
probably accurate.
yeah, and that's why a lot of people were kind of, I feel like they were rocked to sleep by Tate. He made it seem like this was an amazing program. I even looked at one of his courses because I wanted to create online content, and I was just evaluating to see whether or not like
what
this
platforms he uses
strategy,
and stuff. Yeah.
the platform, the strategy would work. And then I saw this pimp and hose degree thing. I'm like, is he like legally pimping out women somehow? Obviously, it's not legal. I mean, depending on where you live, I guess it could be.
He seems to know the law well enough, or maybe he has lawyers helping him navigate the law. He seems to, I don't know. We'll see how this trial goes against him. But at least so far to date, he has seemed to find loopholes in laws. And a lot of these laws, too, they're not catching up with technology, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for
I think
sure.
that's a lot of the problem.
So the Romanian courts were able to pull out a lot of the information from the defunct course that I mentioned. And in that, Andrew Tate wrote, "My job was to meet a girl, go on a few dates, sleep with her, test if she's quality, get her to fall in love with me to where she'd do anything I say, and then get her on a webcam so we could become rich together." Here's the problem though. Even if these girls willingly did that, he took all of their money.
Yeah, and there's the whole sex issue.
Yeah, I mean that's the glaring issue, but I've seen a lot of content created by these women, and some of them were teenagers at the time that this was happening.
Yeah.
And they said that and men who were exploited not sexually but monetarily by Tate, saying, "Well, if you do this, then you'll be able to do this," kind of thing. He took millions of dollars from these people.
Yeah.
So it's not sexual exploitation only, it's financial exploitation as well, on top of human and yikes.
Yeah. I just hope that with this upcoming trial, these accusations against him, that they will finally be able to convict him and sentence him, because he needs to be taken down. He is like Epstein on crack.
Yeah, no, for real. I think the way Epstein had things organized, we see a pattern of that with Sean P. Diddy Combs. We see a pattern of that even with, what was his name? Was it Mike Jeffries from Abercrombie and Fitch as well? We're seeing a pattern of that to an extent with Andrew Tate. Here's the thing though, and I kind of briefly mentioned this, even on Wikipedia, it says evidence suggested violence against women was also taught and discussed. Victims said sex was used as a manipulation technique. Members of the group believed they were performing Pavlovian conditioning on the women with submission tests such as receiving tattoos on their bodies of members' initials. Dude, this is human 101, you're branding your
Uh,
victim. A whistleblower who claimed to be a former head of sales and marketing. Oh my, this is organized crime.
mhm.
Described the group as a cult he had been brainwashed by. A spokesperson for Tate said that the BBC's findings not only present false accusations, but insult the massive community that considers Andrew Tate a life-changing positive force. As of August 2022, there were 434 members and 45 potential victims based on the leaked chat logs.
Gosh,
And then there's a link for the chat logs. I wonder if it's actually going to show them.
it's wild.
Yeah. It's crazy. I don't understand how he's not other than the fact that he has millions of dollars rotting behind bars right now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a combination of things. It's a combination of him being rich and very well connected, but then you'll note that he's also, what's the word, positioned himself in countries where the laws suck.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the Romanian age of consent, if I look this up and I remember correctly, is 16. So, from what I understand, you're right. He purposefully lives and resides and operates in areas that don't have such strict regulations in regards to this stuff.
strict regulations, but also maybe don't have, no insults to Romania, but maybe don't have the best investigative record.
Oh, yeah.
You know, police, well, and you just see it in the UK, the way that they've neglected to prosecute these gangs of immigrants preying on their own daughters. They're corrupt. They're negligent. Yeah. They're insane. And people like Tate see that and they go, well, shoot, I'm going to move there. Because, you know, if they ever, accuse me of anything or threaten to deport me or threaten to arrest me, I'm just going to say, oh, I'm Muslim.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. It enables them to do whatever they want in the name of religion, which most countries protect you from religious persecution.
Unless you're a Christian.
That's how we know what the true way to God is, because of the way the world responds to Christianity, which actually ironically takes us to something I just wanted to mention. And I know you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but if y'all have not watched this debate, go watch the debate between Billy Carson, who is, I want to say an antichrist, but he's just completely against all things Christianity and has made it his life mission to prove that Christianity is not the way to God. Well, his friend, I think his name was Mark something. I forget his last name. I guess Billy Carson and this guy go way back. They were friends. They were in each other's weddings. And Mark knew or found out about Wesley Huff. Wesley Huff is a professional linguist. His story is amazing. He was born in the mission field with his parents, I think in Pakistan, and he was diagnosed with a very rare disease at 11 years old that it made him completely paralyzed. Well, they went back to the doctor and the doctor's like, it's a miracle because Wes all of a sudden could walk. It was absolutely incredible for him to share his testimony. Well, Wesley Huff and Billy Carson went on a debate together, and Wesley Huff mopped the floor with Billy Carson, but to the point where Billy Carson walked off the set and then the next day sent the moderator a cease and desist letter. He hand delivered it to his kid in the middle of the night.
That's kind of weird.
They live in the same neighborhood. Well, Wesley Huff lives in Canada, so he could not hand deliver a cease and desist letter to Wesley Huff. And against Billy Carson's request, they published the debate anyway. And so now we have this landslide of people who were followers of Billy Carson that are now saying, I was an atheist because of you, and now I'm reevaluating Christ because of this debate.
Wow.
But it doesn't stop there. So people who have been following the Joe Rogan Experience for any amount of time have seen, and I know you've watched a few of his episodes, especially when I think it was JD Vance was on.
Yeah.
We've seen this, I don't know, evolution of faith or something going on with Rogan, where he's had a lot of questions that he's asked people that are on the show who might believe in God or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And it appears as if God is drawing Joe Rogan to himself.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go.
He did a show with Mel Gibson recently, and I only
Yeah.
watched like 20 minutes of it, but they got into, Rogan was asking him, why do you believe in the resurrection? Why do you think there's corruption in the Catholic Church? How do you explain, like, if the Catholic Church, Gibson's Catholic, if you think that
Yeah.
the Catholic Church is the Church of God, then how do you explain abuse? And Gibson did a beautiful job of saying, well, and I'm paraphrasing him obviously, but basically, look, there's a spiritual church, there's a true church, and then there's a church we see. There's the people who claim to be part of the church, and there's a lot of people who are hypocrites. There's a lot of people who are corrupt, who are apostate. He used that word a lot, apostate. They claim to be one thing, but they're another thing. The true spiritual church is a lot smaller than the church we see visibly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean it's not real.
Yeah, so I love that Rogan has not held back the type of people that he has on his show. It's not just one kind of person or one set of beliefs or anything. He has such great questions. Well, because he had Billy Carson on his show a couple months ago and he saw the debate with Wes and Billy Carson, he had Wes on his show.
Yeah.
This episode, people were like, when is it coming out? Like they couldn't get it fast enough. Because he finally had like a true Christian apologist on his show that could really like prove that Christ not only lived, but he was crucified and he was resurrected. Like amazing stuff. So the episode went 3 hours and 15 minutes. It is worth every single second to listen to because what Wes does is he proves that scripture is true. He completely takes a lot of misconceptions about the origins of scripture, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and a lot of, just attacks against it, and he proves that it's true. And then he goes further. At the end of the discussion, he even ends up asking Joe what he thinks about Jesus Christ. And Joe picks him apart. I mean, he asks him really hard questions about Christ's crucifixion, about his resurrection, who actually witnessed these things and how it's been documented. Really great questions. Well, I just wanted to encourage our listeners to go watch that show if you have any doubt of God's existence or just want to reaffirm your faith in God or to grow that seed of faith. Go watch it. It's so good.
Yeah. No, I've been so encouraged. I wouldn't call myself a regular listener of Rogan's. He just kind of came on my radar. Well, I mean, I've known who he was for a while, but he kind of came on my radar to listen to during the election. And then, one of the other, but he's actually been an advocate for abuse victims for quite a while. I don't know if you knew that. Back in 2021, he interviewed a young woman who had fled North Korea. And I don't know
I remember this.
Yeah. And I'm going to butcher her name. I know it, but Yeonmi Park. She's a human rights activist who defected from North Korea, and she talks about the incredible, and I don't mean that in a positive way, just horrific human rights violations that are happening in North Korea, how her father died, how she was raised in a culture that was desensitized to starvation and murder and death. And she escaped it, and she finds America to be like this magical place where people can eat an entire hamburger, and I mean, it's tragic, but Rogan's been shining a light on a lot of these injustices for years. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to, see his interview with Wes and watch the rest of the interview with Mel Gibson too. Just exciting. It's exciting. I feel like there's this enlightenment happening in our culture. People are, and I think a lot of it's, whether you like Trump or not, I think a lot of it is because Trump is not afraid to offend people. And he just came out and he said, nope, the Bible's great. Christianity's great, and that was that. And it kind of gave a lot of people permission, maybe people who felt like it wasn't PC before, or people who were frightened before, people who were just embarrassed before, to talk about their faith or just to ask questions about, well, what is Christianity? Why do you believe different things? And, and I think it kind of broke this dam that's
Yeah.
been built in our culture because of the politically correct police, the, Zuckerberg's fact checkers who definitely suppress Christian speech. Just the media, the whole, I mean, my goodness, Hollywood is so antagonistic and hostile towards
Yeah.
Christianity. Like if you listen to the Mel Gibson interview, that he went through a lot just to
Yes.
produce The Passion.
Yeah.
And that movie did great. Like it made a lot of money. And if
And they tried to
Hollywood,
cancel him after.
yeah, if Hollywood, if they weren't biased against Christianity, they would have looked at the success of that film and they would have gone, dang, we need to make more Christian films. But they
Yeah.
didn't
Right. They
because
did
they
the
hate
opposite.
Christianity. And,
Yeah.
and a lot of this goes back to, the sexual abuse that's rampant in Hollywood. You read about Roman Polanski and Harvey Weinstein. And I mean, these guys thrive in Hollywood because it's oversexed, it's misogynistic. There's a lot of predators. And I think, what, another thing I was thinking about, I was talking to my husband about this, and he was talking about how he doesn't think that misogyny is that rampant in our culture.
Hmm.
And part of it is his perspective as a guy. He's a guy, he's not a misogynist, he doesn't hang out with misogynists, and therefore he's like, where are you guys seeing all this,
Yeah. Yeah.
But by the same token, I think that there are a lot of women, feminists, abuse survivors who see misogyny everywhere, in part because of their perspective, because they were in a bubble where abuse was very prevalent, but also because our media is saturated with it. And so when you know the red flags of abuse and you know the red flags of misogyny and you watch television and you watch movies, you see them. You see the red flags, you see the attitudes, you see the condoning of the sexualization of women and children. You see this even when it's subtle. And so you think, my gosh, this is everywhere. But I think what it actually is that there are pockets of it. There's a huge pocket of it in Hollywood, which is creating the vast majority of our media. There's a huge pocket of it in New York City. In any big city, you're going to have pockets of this type of thing, just like you have pockets of drug and street gangs. Like this stuff tends to congregate in the big cities. That's not to say it doesn't exist in the country, obviously, but I just think it's more organized in big cities.
Well, yeah, there's more people to victimize in big
Exactly. More
cities.
people to
Yeah.
network with. Yeah, exactly. And so, I think that it's interesting. I think that I don't even know how to say what I'm saying. And I think I just started talking before I formulated my idea the entire way. But I really think that there are strongholds where these types of evil congregate, be that in religious institutions or movie studios or television studios, what have you.
Well, what the pattern in what you're mentioning right now is little accountability.
Yes.
So, movie studios, TV studios, religious organizations, they
Yeah.
don't have as much accountability as even a grocery store, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it makes sense. I actually just watched an interview with Brett Cooper. Do you
Mhm.
know who Brett Cooper is?
I do not.
She was a personality on the Daily Wire and very much like Candace Owens recently left. So now they have like no female personalities left. Well, she mentioned, and I didn't realize this, that she was a child celebrity and she was not preyed on necessarily the way like Quiet on Set, that documentary about Nickelodeon. A lot of the kids came out and said that there is definitely a casting couch that they had to endure to get positions that they wanted to be on. Well, Brett's mom was a helicopter mom to an extent. She knew that her daughter really wanted to do this, so she put her through like karate and self-defense classes and really equipped her, but was super like on top of her when she was around anybody else and would not let her just be alone with people.
Yeah.
And she knew there was going to be opportunity where she had to be. And so that's why she said, you know what, I am going to train you to, defend yourself. And it's amazing because she left Hollywood to pursue a life of marriage and having children because that to her was more valuable than chasing fame and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she just made a case where the celebrity parents, the parents of the childhood celebrities, they knew what was going on. They
Yeah.
knew who the creeps were. They understood what the cost of their child getting famous was going to be. And then there's these small group of people who say, "No, we're not
Mhm.
going to submit to that." And there's such little accountability that it's so rampant in certain industries because these predators, who are already predators, by the way, before they go to that industry,
Mhm.
they know where the low hanging fruit is. So they're
Yeah.
willing to put themselves in a position that will give them access to kids.
Yeah.
I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but it is so much more prevalent in places where there's little accountability. And
Yeah.
for some reason, Brett's story popped into my head. Go check her out, support her. It's amazing. She
Yeah.
left Daily Wire and she started a brand new YouTube channel, no videos, and still has like over 500,000 followers. No
Nice.
videos.
That's awesome.
But yeah, she has heavy convictions and she's not willing to sway from them. And I respect her so much for it.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, especially with what Elon Musk has done with X, it seems like there are a lot of prominent talk show hosts, journalists, opinion columnists types who are breaking away from major news networks and starting off on their own, just having their own show. And they're
Yeah.
doing great.
Yes.
And I think that's so cool. And I think there's still a place. Like, I think that mainstream media needs to really do some spring cleaning this year. Get back to investigative journalism, objective reporting.
But
And
if we're being realistic, Jen, as
Mhm.
long as these mainstream media outlets are owned by individuals
Yes.
and corporations that don't want investigative reporting and don't
Yep.
want true unbiased reporting, it's not going to happen.
Oh no, they want propaganda.
Yeah.
That's the whole
And
thing. But
yeah, it reminds
I think that we're to a point where that's starting to die off.
I
You know,
sure hope so.
I
Yeah.
think we are because I see it happening on X where people are like, we're not listening to the mainstream media anymore. This is garbage, and we're getting more and more citizens reporting. One of the
Yeah.
things that happened that was really alarming, I'm sure you saw in the news with the Los Angeles fires.
Yeah.
You had people on X, uploading video, letting people know what was going on. Then people were seeing that and going, oh my gosh, I'm going to call my family, my friends in California, make sure they're safe. They call them. People in California didn't know what was happening. The news there was not reporting it.
That's crazy.
It's a fire. Yeah. And
And it's
so,
not like a small fire.
no. And so there was time period. I think it was fairly short, maybe, 12 hours, 24 hours. But people in California in the vicinity of Los Angeles did not know what was going on because they weren't online. And so people in Europe knew about the fires in LA before the people in Pasadena did.
My goodness.
It was bizarre.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
That's
And,
crazy.
yeah. And then, and it was, and then because they had, power loss and everything, because due to the fires, they didn't have any internet. And so they had these news stations were using Starlink, which is Musk's internet, to broadcast out from these different places. And that's how a lot of people were also uploading video. They didn't have regular internet anymore, no Wi-Fi or whatever. They had Starlink. And so they were able to get these videos out of the fires sweeping through their neighborhoods, surrounding their houses, burning down schools and stuff.
It's crazy to me when you look
Yeah.
at the footage of the fire. It looks eerily similar to Lahaina.
It's really scary. Yeah.
It is
Now,
really scary.
yeah, it's really scary. And I think that the commonality, like I don't want to be conspiratorial because there are a lot of
Come on,
conspiracy.
Jen, get conspiratorial on me.
Well, some people were going, "Ooh, what's that thing flying over the fire?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's a drone. The fire department is sending drones around the fire so that they can tell where the fire is, so they know where to send the firemen. This is not
Yeah,
complicated. Like,
yeah,
please stop being crazy."
yeah,
Um, this is just practical. Even me, as a stay-at-home mom, like I can look at that and be like, that's what that is. But
yeah.
here's what I think. I think what a lot of what's going on right now, and I think this is probably what happened in Hawaii as well. Government incompetence. You would be amazed at how many bad things can be chalked up to human idiocy. So if you watch, there's this video. It's not a new video, but it's a video of this gal. Let me see if I can pull it up. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But it's this gal who works at the LA Fire Department. I'm trying to remember what all she does. She's one of the big top dogs over at the LA Fire Department. And she's talking about how her priority is hiring people of all different ethnicities because in her mind she thinks that if your house is on fire you're going to want someone who's the same color as you to
What?
show up and put the fire out.
I don't care what color. Your skin could be purple. You could literally be an avatar. Like, you could be an avatar here with your water powers and you're taking the flames down. I don't care what color your skin is. Just take the flames out for me.
Right?
That's all I care
Save
about.
my stuff, save my pets, save
Yes.
my kids. And then she goes on. She keeps going. And
What?
she says these women have actually asked her, they've expressed the concern, well, are you strong enough to carry my husband out of a fire? Like, if my husband is in a fire, if he's injured, are you strong enough to carry him out of a fire? And her response is, well, if your husband's in a fire, it's his own fault for being in that situation.
You want to see somebody that responds to your house, your emergency, whether it's a medical call or a fire call, that looks like you. It gives that person a little bit more ease, knowing that somebody might understand their situation better. Is she strong enough to do this? Or you couldn't carry my husband out of a fire, which my response is, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire.
What?
That's crazy.
Insane.
Make this make sense. Why are DEI hires even a thing? Like, why aren't we hiring people based off of their skill set and their talents and their ability to do
She's
the
not even
job?
interested in her job. Her job is to save people out of fires, and she thinks that these people are stupid. Why is she there? I don't understand. Like, why does she even want this job? She
I also
doesn't care. Like, it's bizarre. And then, not only did she say this out loud in a video, but think about this. Somebody filmed that video, somebody edited that video, people reviewed that video, their PR department collectively decided this is a great video, we should put this online.
what? I also saw that when firefighters hooked their hoses up to hydrants, that no water was coming out.
Yeah.
Why? Where did the water go?
Yeah, so some of that is poor planning on the city's part.
I think
And
I
some of
saw that same woman that you're referring to, maybe it was actually the mayor of LA, cut the fire department's budget by like $40 million.
it's a huge sum. I don't remember the exact sum, but it's a huge sum, yes.
Yeah.
She cut their funding. And
But where's
also
the logic with that? Like, you live in an area
that has
that,
repeated fires every
yeah,
single flipping year. They have
yeah,
fires.
yeah. I don't understand where that
They
logic
should be
is coming
investing
from.
money in more water resources, more fire prevention resources. For the past 30 years, apparently, they haven't been cleaning out brush. That's like a major way that they control these fires is by simply not having brush, because when the brush builds up, the fire jumps from pile to pile, jumps across freeways. This is
Yeah,
common sense. Me and
yeah,
you, we're not firemen, but we could think of this.
for sure.
It's just, you clear the fire hazards in your community, and they weren't doing that.
Well, and the eerie similarities with Lahaina.
Yeah,
Like, they blocked citizens from being able to leave.
it's just
There
like,
was not enough water. The water wasn't turned on.
yeah. Now
Like,
didn't that guy actually actively turn it off?
I don't I don't know.
I have to look back. I'm pretty sure that some idiot actually turned the water off in that situation. I don't know why.
But yeah, and that's the thing. Why? You know that something horrible is happening. Why would you turn the water off unless you wanted it to get worse?
I have no idea.
There's no logic that makes it make sense.
No, whatever was going on in his head did not make any sense. Now, in the California situation, I don't think anybody turned off the water. I think what happened was poor plannings. They didn't have enough in reserve, right? But then also because the fire was so hot, once the pipes were damaged or melted, the water in the pipes just evaporated. And so the water was gone.
And then there was something else that I saw which is news to me. I've never been over to California. I have my first trip actually scheduled this spring to go to
nice.
California.
That's beautiful. I love it.
For a convention in Ontario, California. I don't even know if that's north or south. We're going to find out. Maybe it's in the middle. But someone sent me something about the Getty in LA. Do you know anything about that?
It burned down, didn't it?
Is the Getty an art museum?
I believe so.
And then there's like a ton of like Hollywood mansions in that area.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also inside of that mountain, there's like shelters or something. I don't know. I feel like I'm not educated enough. This was your topic, so I'm trusting you to know more than me.
Nothing about no bunkers, but it's possible. I have no idea.
It's certainly possible. I feel like
I mean, with all the rich people out there, I'm sure some of them have bunkers. I mean, that only makes sense.
There's definitely bunkers for sure. But you made a comment about there's like a shift. There's like an enlightenment happening in America.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's twofold. One is like an awakening to spiritual things. People are asking like what their chief end is, what their purpose is, who God is, who's Jesus. It's a beautiful thing. Another part to it, you mentioned about people trusting more independent journalists, investigative reporting versus the media. And you see almost like a twofold right now where there's some celebrities that are coming out and they're saying, I believe in God. And they're like almost being canceled. Justin Bieber is one of them that I'm very encouraged by. He recently had a baby too. And you notice that shortly after he had his beautiful baby with his beautiful wife, Haley, the media attacked him and started like going on this smear campaign against him. And then shortly after that, the whole Diddy thing happened and his name is brought up again and again and again. And now we have a new lawsuit. Did you see about the one with Jay-Z?
No, I'm not surprised, but
no. She's now an adult, but she was then a 13-year-old girl.
Oh my gosh.
Who is alleging that, and Tony Busby is the attorney that is covering this case. She's alleging that P. Diddy and Jay-Z both her after a big party that she wasn't invited to, but she gained access to. And in that allegation, in that lawsuit, she says that there was a woman that was there, a very well-known woman, a celebrity that was in the room and that watched her get.
I have some ideas. Keep going.
So the time frame is around the same time frame that Jay-Z would have been with Aaliyah, I believe. And P. Diddy would have been with Jennifer Lopez.
Yes.
So it could also be, I think they said Foxy Brown and a couple other people, but Justin Bieber's name keeps getting brought up because they believe that there's a lot of footage of him with Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah. There is. I mean, I've seen some of it, and she's in photos and stuff. I mean, she was at quite a few of those parties.
Yeah, no, she was at a lot of those parties in that time frame. And, the fact that P. Diddy comes out publicly and says she was the best girlfriend he ever had, and now we know what he was into, begs the question, who was the woman in the room while this 13-year-old girl was getting. and who also horribly abused Justin Bieber, because we see videos of him before what we think the time frame was, of him going to spend 48 hours alone with Diddy, and then afterwards, and what those interactions look like afterwards. And you can see clear signs of trauma. So we see an amazing shift of people who are saying, no more, I don't want to deal with Hollywood anymore. I just want to live my life. I want to honor God. I want to pursue what's good. And I see that in Justin. At the same time, you see such horrible trauma that he faced in the same industry. And with the whole LA fires, the Lahaina thing, there was a ton of drones that were just, all over the United States for like
that was so weird.
So it's like a huge shift is happening from like this darkness of people not being spiritually enlightened or care about the things of God, to now caring and seeking, and more people, especially the youth, turning to Christ. And then a shift of people not believing mainstream media anymore, and really believing in people like you and me who care more than the money that we're making to be able to report accurate information.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I'm really hoping that this is just the beginning, that we're going to be seeing a growing trend of this, of people taking responsibility for what they believe, doing their own research, comparing different news sources, and deciding what's true, what's false. And, we really need this, especially with AI on the verge of becoming extremely dangerous. I mean, some of the videos and photos that you can just produce for free using a program like Grok are pretty compelling. And I see people in my parents' generation looking at photos, looking at videos that I can look at and go, it's pretty fake. And they don't get it. They don't see it. They don't understand. And so I'm really grateful that our generation, certainly our kids' generation, hopefully is going to be much better equipped to detect deception, to question what they see and hear. It's so dangerous, and this is such a timely revival because, man, things are going to get really confusing really fast here.
Well, I feel like it's biblical too. I can't cite the verse, and maybe during editing I'll be able to pull it out, but I think it's in the book of Revelation. I could be wrong. There's a section of scripture that talks about a revival before more prophecy is fulfilled, being the coming of Christ, the second coming. And if you don't believe in the second coming of Christ, then that's fine. Everybody has their own views about end times, but I think it's really exciting. I feel like we were made for a time such as this. The passion that we both have in our heart to protect kids and to raise awareness, and not even just kids, just the vulnerable in general. And I think it's like to sit back on our hands and not use that passion that we have in such an amazing time. Like, think about technology and the digital age. Think about how the disciples had to physically go from one place to another to share the good news of the gospel. We don't have those limitations anymore. So I just want to encourage everybody, be bold for the truth, be bold for what you believe in, be bold for what you know is right and good and just. It's okay. Like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's not easy. Just even being on this podcast is not easy, right?
Yeah, it's okay not to have all the answers. Sometimes, in fact, the most authentic and honest thing you can say is, I don't know.
Right.
I mean, it's okay. You're one person. You're a human being. You don't have to know all the answers, but just being open to learning, taking initiative to consider different possibilities, different evidence. It's so, so, so important.
Yeah. And I saw a need, at least in child advocacy, where I was and still am being contacted by so many people saying, I see that there's a big issue here. These kids are under attack from every direction. What can I do to help? And from that question has birthed a project I've been working on for the past year, but something that I've had the desire to do since I started working for ECAP. and was introduced to you is putting together a course for your everyday person on what the landscape of abuse is and grooming and exploitation, but then how to identify signs of abuse and signs of a groomer or a predator, signs of trafficking. And then furthermore, how do you respond, right? So I see that someone is being abused at a gas station and they don't look like this person is their father. What do I do? A lot of people don't know what to do. And so I put together a course called the Bold Child Advocate course. And I just launched it today publicly. And I try to make it as affordable as possible. And I have a few free discount coupons. So if you leave in the comments that you would like to gain access to it, I'll shoot you over a free discount code. But I have this vision, Jen, of every decent, good intended human being to be equipped to identify abuse and to be able to respond to it. Because I know in my heart that if every well-intended person could be an advocate for children or the vulnerable and be able to identify and respond, imagine how many kids we're going to save from trauma.
Oh yeah. No, it would change our culture, honestly. And I think, in an ironic kind of way, guys like Andrew Tate, as awful as he is, he's really shooting abusers in the foot because there are so many red flags. Like if you look at Benny Johnson's tweet on X, his announcement that he's going to have Tate on his show, there's a landslide of people saying, "What are you doing? What are you thinking?" And the reason is because they see the red flags. And I'm going to be real honest with you. 10 years ago, I don't think that would have happened.
Yeah.
I don't think it would. People are waking up and it is so exciting. On the one hand, I think Andrew Tate's disgusting. I think that he needs to be arrested. He needs to be prosecuted. But God, in his profound mercy, works through even the darkest of circumstances and the most evil people. And in his great wisdom, he is waking people up to the red flags. He's waking them up. And I see it happening there in the with the abuse stuff. I see it happening in politics, in the news media, even like you said, with just not trusting the media for like the news about the Los Angeles fires. And in fact, there's this one guy that I've enjoyed, Michael Schellenberger. I'm not sure. Let me see. Where is he on? He's a journalist, but I've really enjoyed his reporting because it's pretty objective. It's factual. His background is actually, he was like a left-wing progressive guy, and he was disenchanted with a lot of the progressive DEI type stuff when he realized that it was actually harming people, when it's actually, resulting in things like these lapses in the government's responsibility to prevent things like wildfires, And he's done a great job. But there's a couple just different reporters that, and news sources that I've, familiarized myself with. And I just think it's so important for people to actively take the initiative to do that. Rather than, listening to CNN or Fox News 24/7 around the clock, just the same talking points, the same propaganda over and over and over again. Like, get out of that bubble. I'm not saying that they're always wrong or that they never produce anything good, but they have an agenda. Be aware of the agenda and educate yourself. Like, this is your job. This is your responsibility. You can't be spoon-fed information anymore.
Yes.
Like, we're past that.
We are called, Christian, to be a good Berean. So do your due diligence. It also begs the question what the media biases were during certain pivotal astronomical events. Just a few that come to mind. COVID, right?
Yeah.
A lot of information's coming out now that's saying that what we were spoon-fed was false information. Things like the 9/11 terror attacks.
Yeah.
I mean, it just begs the question, what is real? What was truly happening that was reported by mainstream media? And should we go back and start listening to independent journalists reporting on these very, I don't know, catastrophic situations that have occurred?
What red flags were missed? Why were they missed? What was covered up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
On another note, I went on Benny Johnson's page while
Jenny
you were
Bonson?
talking about, yeah. They had 40,000 live viewers while he was talking to Andrew Tate. And at the same time, the sentencing against Trump was released, it looks like. And Juan Merchan, I'm not sure who that is. I don't know if he's the judge in the case. I'm not sure. He said, at this time, I impose unconditional discharge to cover all 34 counts against Donald Trump.
Whoa.
And then he says, sir, I wish you Godspeed as you assume your second term in office.
Wow. That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. So they didn't have any concrete evidence to actually sentence him or, convict him of anything. And it goes to show exactly what we're talking about right now. Controlled narrative from mainstream media. Was this a smear campaign against him so that way you didn't vote for him for 2024? I don't know, but I just hope that you, dear viewers, start questioning the information that you're being fed.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like that mayor of Los Angeles cut $17.5 million in funding from the Los Angeles Fire Department and then went on a trip to Ghana, even though she knew that there was a risk of catastrophic fires. So she went out of town. I'm not sure why.
Interesting.
Yes.
Well,
But I mean, California, they've had fires forever. Like I used to live there when I was a kid, and I remember there were like every summer there were fires. This was like, it's normal. It's like rain in some areas. Like it just happened. And the fire department puts them out, and that's the end. Like I remember at this one time when I was probably about 12, 13 years old, the hill next to our apartment building was on fire. And I looked out the window and I thought it was snowing. So I went outside and I'm like, that's weird. Why would it be snowing during the day in the warm summer? I'm a kid. I'd never seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
It was ash raining out of the sky. And, obviously it didn't take me 2 seconds to put that together. But my first instinct was like, is that snow?
Yeah.
But all that to say, I mean, this was predictable. This was something they should have expected. This was something that they should have planned for.
Yep.
This is symptomatic of gross negligence on the part of a lot of people in power.
Well, and it'll be telling to see once they get the fire out how they respond, because if it's anything like Lahaina, they literally turned emergency supplies away at ports of entry.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
Very bizarre.
I will never understand that.
No, you only had independent journalists and residents of the area reporting on that. In the meantime, mainstream media is coming out and saying that's not happening. But the footage was very telling and proof that it indeed was happening. So it'll just be telling to see how they respond going forward and the justification between the cutting of funding and her just fleeing to go to Ghana for what? Exactly.
I mean, to some extent, I don't really like if she already had the trip planned and she's leaving and they're like, hey, ma'am, there's a fire on some hill somewhere. And she's like, okay, put it out. I'll see you later. To some extent, it's kind of like, okay, so when Texas had that big freeze, you might remember this. I believe it was Ted Cruz went on a vacation to, I think it was Cancun or somewhere in Mexico, I think it was. And, people were like, well, why didn't he stay put? Why didn't he stay in the Capitol? And I'm like,
what's he gonna do?
What was he gonna do? Like come in like, I mean,
stop the weather?
Politician, he can't. He's not an electrician. What do you want him to do exactly? And he was actually working from where he was. So where he was in Mexico or wherever had power and had internet.
Yeah.
And so he was able to actually probably get a lot more done than he would have if he'd stayed in Austin or wherever they live.
Well, I think the difference between that, though, and the LA fires is you can't control anything that happens with weather.
True.
There's an element where more manpower, more resources.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, can
Yeah,
absolutely get rid of a wildfire or whatever kind of fire it is.
yeah, yeah.
But then my conspiracy mind will always be like, okay, well, did Lahaina, because the mayor went into hiding there also, and then did the LA fires, did they know it was going to happen before and that's why they got out of Dodge? Like, I don't know. That's just the way my brain works. It
Yeah.
asks more questions than it has answers to.
Yeah. Well, and I think in the, let's see, I'm pulling up the information right now. I'm assuming that they have wildfires pretty regularly in Hawaii too, right? I mean, my gosh,
I
there's volcanoes there. They've
There's
got to. They've
volcanoes,
got the
but
Santa Ana winds. They've got to, yeah.
I
So there
don't
are,
know though, because they're surrounded by water where California's not necessarily surrounded by water. Like here in Florida, we don't have wildfires. We're completely surrounded by water for the most part.
oh, that is interesting. You're right. Never thought about that.
We have a ton of rain though.
Yeah. LA does
California
not,
doesn't have a lot of rain.
that's
Hawaii
part of the
has a lot of
problem.
rain,
Yeah. Part of the problem is that LA is like, it's dry as a bone.
Yeah, it's gridlocked.
Yeah, and so and a lot of that is actually caused because they have these huge dams that stops the water from flowing down into the valleys, and so the valleys are very very dry. I don't know. There's a whole science behind that I cannot explain that we don't have time for, and that
Yeah.
our listeners don't want to hear about as well.
Yeah. Just go look it up.
Yeah, go look it up if you really care. But yeah, there's like a domino effect of issues that happened that resulted in these fires being as horrific as they were. But like back when I was a kid, I mean, living in LA, we'd see fires all the time. They put the fires out, you know, and so I think that there's part of it was the combination of the wind. So what happens is the wind blows sparks and embers from the fire, and those fires can jump across freeways. Those fires can jump from mountain to mountain. And so it makes it very hard. Like you've got your fire department over here on this hill fighting this fire. And then you look over, 2 miles down the road, shoot, another fire just started. And so you've got to spread your team out, right? And it's just logistically, it gets very, very difficult. And I get that. But at the same time, this is their job. And so, when we read about, oh, they haven't been clearing brush out like they're supposed to. They've cut all, millions of dollars from their funding, and then something about they wasted a ton of water because they were trying to preserve fish or something. Makes no sense to me, but I don't know. It's like, how do you save a fish by getting rid of water? But whatever. I'm not even going to ask. I didn't know.
So I'm trying to find out when Karen Bass, who's the mayor of LA, went to Ghana.
The timeline is confusing. I tried to look that up, but yeah. There were legal proceedings following the Maui fires, it looks like.
Yeah, as there should be.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of suspicious stuff that happened though. Like,
Yeah.
for example, something to do with the kids. They release kids from school, they put them on school buses, but the kids never made it home. Where did the kids go? Have you seen that?
No, but there's a lot of weird stuff like that.
Yeah, there's like a lot of kids that are missing. And so, of course, right-wing conspiracy theorists are contemplating where those kids went. And a lot of people think that they were, the powers that be.
Oh, they're still missing?
Yeah, no, they're still missing.
Oh, that's horrific.
And so families chalk it up as my kid died in the fire.
Right.
That's horrifying. But they never found the bodies. They never found the bus.
That's bizarre.
Mm-hmm. Did you see Dora Muno Nyambi from Zambia passed away on Christmas Day? Do you know who that is?
No.
Okay. Amazing, amazing, godly woman. She, I think, was 32 when she died on Christmas Day. She was a humanitarian and a child advocate. She rescued over 500 kids from child marriages and abuse. I mean, she had the list of enemies that she had against her because of the work she did was very long and exhausting. I mean, you're talking about village men who wanted to have her head on a platter because they were arrested and sent to jail for pedophilia and things like that. So the crazy thing is, Just a little backstory. A horrible storm destroyed their dormitories. Now, she was housing over 500 kids at once in between like several different village schools that she had built. And Beast Philanthropy came in and helped her rebuild these dorms. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware or if our listeners are aware, but Mr. Beast is under investigation for several different allegations. One of them is insider trading with crypto. Another is him employing child predators, and they have a YouTube channel that is focused primarily towards kids. Another was actually taken to the FBI by Rosanna Pansino or Pansina. She's a huge YouTuber who was doing some work with Mr. Beast and discovered extremely inappropriate internal chat logs that she turned over to the FBI because it was enabling child predatory behavior and some other things.
Yeah.
So Mr. Beast right now is under investigation for a lot of things, and he's might not be such a great guy like a lot of people seem to think he is. It goes back to the pattern of, if he is a predator, grooming. You groom the community, you gain trust, you target the kids, all that stuff, right?
He has a net worth of $500 million.
It's insane.
Oh my
From
gosh.
making YouTube videos. It's insane. So he goes in, he helps redo these dormitories, starts posting videos here and there about it. A couple weeks later, Dora, according to her family, according to the Zambian Observer, is suspected to have been poisoned on Christmas Day at a Christmas party. Here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people realize that I discovered just by investigating, researching, and I made a video. And when I was making the video and doing my research, I learned that on 4 years prior, on the same exact day, another child advocate who was working out of Zambia with Dora, she was helping the kids who were deaf and blind learn how to read and write and stuff. Her name, McGarry is her name.
Okay.
She also died 4 years ago to the day.
That's weird.
And she is a Zambian child advocate from America, moved to Zambia to help these kids. Her cause of death was listed as malaria, so it wouldn't be, outside the realm of possibility. But the crazy thing is, to the exact day, 4 years later, Dora Muno Nyambi was poisoned. She drove 3 hours to the closest medical facility after someone in her inner circle took her cell phone from her.
That's weird.
The family is saying that when she got to the hospital and it was already too late, like her health had deteriorated so much that they couldn't save her. The death certificate, according to the family, says that she arrived dead at the hospital, but she was by herself. So it's all not making sense.
Weird.
It's all not making sense. And then after she died, her social medias were already taken over and signed by Beast Philanthropy.
That's really creepy.
It's very creepy. And now you have a lot of people who are drawing conclusions where there are none and saying that Beast had something to do with it. And I'm not saying that. I'm just, when you look at the time frame, when you look at the time frame of events, something is very off. Something does not look right.
Well, and I mean, if she was poisoned, obviously somebody poisoned her. So, you just look at who had motive.
And there was a lot of people who had motive because of the work she did. So it very well could have just been, someone she turned into the authorities, their family members. A lot of the wives of these predators protect them and enable them.
That's a good point.
And, if you send their provider to jail, now they have to provide for themselves, kind of thing.
Well, or somebody who felt that she was getting too close to finding something out about them, Yeah. I mean, revenge is obviously a very strong motive, but I think fear is even more so. It'd be very interesting to watch how that whole investigation plays out. I'm just looking at Wikipedia. So this is just kind of like, what's the word? Accrued information from multiple sources.
Yeah.
I'm seeing sexual harassment. Where did it go? I scrolled too far. Alleged widespread mistreatment, sexual harassment, and unpaid expenses and wages relating to his ongoing reality television series, Beast Games.
Yeah, so the Beast Games thing, the other YouTuber I mentioned, Roxana or Rosanna Pansina, I think that's how you say her name.
Yeah.
She has millions of followers and she's being contacted by people who have been on the Beast Games. And basically, what they're saying and providing proof of is that the Beast Games was promoted and marketed to these individuals as like a Squid Game. And if you know anything about Squid Game, which I was just recently introduced to by my teenage daughters, basically, and they just play the video game on Fortnite, I think it is. They don't watch the TV show. There's also a Squid Game show that we watch together. But basically, it is a set of games that is actually made for kids that adults play of all different ages, all different physicalities and abilities. That's supposed to set a level playing field for those participating in the game. It's more like, I don't know if you've watched it, kids games that are elevated to be adult games. And they're supposed to be simple. They're supposed to be easy to play. Well, when these contendants went, it wasn't the way that it was marketed. Apparently, it was very physical. You had to have strength and agility. And so you had people casted that were old and elderly.
Oh, wow.
And people that were not fit. You had women, and then when the games would start, the men who were physically fit and able would, like, you know, take out these people to the point where their bones broke.
Oh, geez.
So Beast Games is allegedly being sued by some of these contestants for misadvertising what the games were and causing physical harm to them. But it's not just that. So then they were like, all their cell phones were taken away from them. They weren't allowed to use like basic necessities. Like this one girl, she got her period. And she couldn't use like regular pads. She was allergic to them.
Sure.
And they wouldn't get her what she needed. So she like, you can imagine what happened thereafter. So this dude who pretends to be like someone who's very giving and does a lot for the community behind the scenes appears with all these allegations and lawsuits and investigations to not be the stand-up individual that he claims to be and that many people believe him to be.
Yeah. That's so disturbing. I mean, I honestly, like, I don't know. I worry a lot about the things that our kids watch, the adults that tap into a child audience, you know, it's just, I'm so concerned about a lot of their motives.
As we should be.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad for us to be concerned about their motives.
You've got to be so careful. I mean, there was a show, and it was just a stupid YouTube show that my little daughter loved watching, but it was this adult, it was a man and a woman, they're grown-ups, and they're playing with Barbies, and they're, you know, and at first I thought this is cute, but then I'm like, wait, why are these grown-ups playing with Barbie dolls? And why are they, and they've got this whole, you know, fan following of little girls.
It's like a cult following. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
bizarre. Like, the more I watched it, the weirder I thought that it was, especially when the adults start interacting, like not like texting or DMing or anything like that, but just in the video talking to the kids. I'm like, this is odd. Like, let's not watch this anymore.
Yeah, no, it raises a lot of red flags. And you had Roblox developers, and this is what it reminds me of. YouTube and Roblox, very similar, different content that's produced at the end. Roblox, you get games. YouTube, you get videos. And so you had on Roblox developers that were creating games that kids loved, but then they took it too far. So it would have been great if they would have just stopped at the developing and the updating. They created their own characters to be able to play with the kids in the game. This is just all predatory behavior. They started sending gifts like Robux to these kids, started communicating with these kids through DMs, one-on-one communications, started asking the kids to go to a Discord channel instead to communicate. Kids did. And then even went as far as visiting the kids in person.
That's bizarre. Well, okay. So even if these people have good intentions, right? Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt for a second. What they're doing is they're normalizing this behavior that predators use. they're breaking down kids' boundaries so that kids think it's normal and it's safe and it's okay to talk to total strangers online, to accept gifts from strangers online. This is not, that's not a standard, that's not a precedent we want to set. Part of protecting kids, part of being a responsible adult is teaching children boundaries.
Yeah.
Teaching children how they should be treated so that when a predator does cross one of those boundaries, when a predator, does something weird, they notice.
Yeah.
Because if they're used to adults hugging them without asking, giving them random gifts, contacting them privately, telling them to keep secrets from their parents, yada, yada, yada. If when they're used to that kind of behavior, they're not going to notice when a dangerous person does that. So I do not care what your motives are. We do not treat children like that. We do not interact with children like that. I mean, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's unwise at best.
I mean, you can just type it into Google. I'm looking for a specific person that was arrested that was a developer.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's endless news articles. Do you know the name of the kid guy? What's his name? Mr. Fatnick? Yeah. His name was Mr. Ratnick. And I'm pretty sure that he was arrested by the FBI at a Roblox developer conference.
Jeez.
For preying on kids in the game that he developed. And this is not a one-off situation. I am looking at a list of news articles. A pedophile used Roblox to groom, abduct, and sexually assault a 15-year-old a full 18 months after the community had outed him as a predator. Roblox is fighting to keep pedophiles away and not always winning. With new safety update, Roblox aims to boost protection for young gamers because pedophilia on the platform is so horrific. Developer arrested at Roblox developer conference. Roblox reported 13,316 instances of child exploitation just last year. Roblox awards canceled developer who was arrested after security concern.
They awarded him?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
After he was
they
arrested.
made him.
Okay.
He made them millions of dollars, so of course he would still get an award.
Well, I just like this July 22nd, 2024 article. Keep in mind, that was last year, but that's like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
BNN Bloomberg is reporting. It says the gaming platform with a predator problem. That's what they're calling Roblox.
Yeah. I mean, parents, think for 1 second. Okay, your kids are primarily online unless you have a lot of controls and boundaries to prevent them from going online.
Yeah. And let's be real, we don't have time to be looking over their shoulders 24/7.
Right. Even if you get devices like Bark, which we have, my teenage daughters, they have a Bark phone. So anytime a red flag goes off, I'll be notified. I don't invade on their privacy. I don't read all their text messages. But if they start looking up something inappropriate, or if someone texts them something that could be deemed as inappropriate, I'll be notified. So it's a great technology. It can be a little pricey at times, but especially in 2020, predators realize that they need to go where the kids are. This isn't anything new. It just was always very physical before. Coaching, teaching, pastorship, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Now they're going online and they're pretending to be somebody that they're not to gain the kids' trust, because a lot of kids are not being met emotionally with their needs by their parents. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, everybody's go. And so if an online predator can meet that emotional need that a child has, now that predator has gained the child's trust.
Yeah.
And then the predator just showers them with gifts. Imagine
it's like that boyfriend thing we were talking about.
Yeah. Imagine you're a 13-year-old, your favorite video game is Fortnite, and all you want are V-Bucks, but your parents say no.
Mm-hmm.
But this friend who's pretending to be a 16-year-old online, who's actually 54 living in his mom's basement.
Yeah.
He's showering you with V-Bucks and he wants to talk to you through the chat and all that. They're going to give in.
Yeah, it's not hard to understand. Yeah.
No, it's not a difficult concept, but parents are so in their own world that they're not adjusting to the parenting demands of this digital age.
Yeah.
They have to. You have to. You have to be on the offensive.
Yeah.
And create prevention tools or boundaries so that way your kids are not exposed.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, I mean, my kids, they love playing games, and they played Roblox before. And there was one situation, I don't remember, I think it was Roblox, I'm not sure. But they're playing, and I'm right there in the room with them, right? I'm moderating the situation. And all of a sudden, there's this man's voice talking to my daughter. And I was like, who's that? And she goes, I don't know, it's just one of the other users. And I was like, turn it off.
Yeah.
No more of that.
My daughters are 13, the twins are 13, and I still don't let them put their messaging, what's it called, their chat feature on.
Yeah.
Some games you can't block it, so they know that they can't play those games unless their parents are present.
Yeah.
But the only time they can have their chat feature on is if they know that person in
in person. Yeah. This is
in
so and so
person.
from church, so and so from school.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the
I
girls they have like I think like 2 or 3 friends on there. It's like some kids from school, some kids from church, and their cousins,
Yeah.
But man, it's scary how quickly technology is adapting, and it's really difficult. Like for someone like me, I'm not very tech savvy. Like I can get by, but it's work for me to figure out all this different stuff. Like I have to work at it, as you know. But so my kids come to me and they're like, asking me about this app or that app. And I'm like, I don't know, baby, but I don't have time to figure this out. And because I don't have time to figure it out, we can't get that because I don't even know what this is.
Yeah. There's one situation. This is why we stopped letting the girls on Roblox at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think it was one of the girls. They were interacting with someone and you could still the chat feature isn't turned on where you can have personal discussions, but within the game itself, little bubbles can pop up or whatever. So the character asked my daughter to go into their bedroom together and then says, sit on the bed. Why are you wearing that? Why don't you put this on? And the clothing things were very provocative, and there's role-playing games that don't have very much limitation in Roblox that people don't even realize, and so
it's a game marketed for kids. Like what the heck?
I know, and some people will say, well, adults like playing games like that too. Well, why? There's adult games that you can play. You don't need to play a child's game.
You don't need to play with my 8-year-old.
No, but predators are going to the corners of the internet where children are commonly at, and parents have to not just be offensive or not just be defensive, but offensive. You have to educate your kids on the signs of grooming, on the signs of predatory behavior.
Yeah.
They should know these things. It should not be just child advocates and people that see some of the worst things that know this. If you care about your kids and their mental well-being, then I want to encourage you to educate them age appropriately on signs to look for, on what safe interactions are between adult and child. There's so much that you can educate your kids on. So I just want to encourage y'all to do that.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's amazing. And I'm not saying this to judge, but it amazes me the things that parents will let their kids do, because I don't think the parents understand how dangerous it is. We had a situation where, and maybe this was totally fine. Maybe this kid's parents knew what was going on. But Jason was playing a video game, and he doesn't play like little kids video games. He doesn't play Roblox or anything like that.
Yeah.
But he plays, some games, sometimes like first person shooters and stuff, where you can hear the other person talking if they've got like a headset or whatever. And you realize that the person that he is playing with is this child, like 7, 8 years old, and this kid's just on there talking to adult men, and we were both kind of just taken aback. I assume his parents are with him, but
most likely not.
He's just talking to total strangers on the internet by himself, a little kid. You know, and I hope that he wasn't supposed to be doing that.
Well, in
But yeah,
2020, online enticement went through the roof because, predators realized every single child was on their tablet or on their laptop because schools were
yep,
shut down.
yep,
So, online enticement, which is when a predator is online and tries to get a child or even an adult to do something that they otherwise wouldn't do,
yeah,
it went up by like 200%.
yeah. And
And
yeah, and once those kids during COVID, once they were hooked on using screens and playing computer games, you can't take it away. It's so hard to get them off of that,
it is
because they know there's a
literally an
whole,
addiction.
yeah, well, then there, plus, I mean, even without addiction, but with the whole world of fun games to play, like, why would they want to give that up?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
taking your kid to the playground and saying, oh, can't do that anymore, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just, oh,
So I think parents need to learn the signs of grooming. Kids need to learn the signs of grooming. Predatory behavior comes in patterns, and if you're able to identify them, then you can help yourself and your kids avoid interacting with people who do not have good intentions for them, even if
100%.
they're lavishing them with gifts.
And
So,
one thing, Becca, you and I might work on in all our free time,
mhm.
um, is that, a parent guide to some of these popular apps.
Mm,
Like, how do you set up the settings to make it safe? Which apps are the most dangerous ones? Which apps are the
yeah.
safer ones? I mean, so because a lot of parents, like me, I'm not super tech proficient. There's a cat hair flying by my face. I'm not super tech savvy. I can figure out things if I take the time, but I'm a mom of three.
Yeah.
It's like my bandwidth, my mental bandwidth, my time is already stretched thin, and so it's difficult to keep track of all these things. And it would be
Yeah.
super nice to just have a little short pamphlet that I could download as a PDF or whatever that just says, okay, don't do this, do this, do this, block that.
Yeah.
Just tell me what
So,
to do.
listeners, let us know in the comments section. Do y'all want us to develop a parent's guide to social media or a parent's guide to apps for your kids?
Yes.
I'm sure there's something out there already, but yeah, that might absolutely come in handy.
I think it could, and especially from a Christian perspective, because, even like, I'm sure there are things out there, but it's probably kind of something you kind of have to hodgepodge together as a parent.
Yeah.
Um, and just to have like a Christian perspective on it, it's like, okay, well, technically this is safe. Technically they're doing, um, maybe all the right things in this particular app, but the subject matter in this game is
Yeah.
PG-13 or something like
Right.
that,
Yeah.
and so, yeah.
Well, that takes us to our sponsor for today, TUVU. TUVU is the Christian digital community that you can access both on a desktop and on your cell phone or a tablet. And it's beautiful. I remember I did get one video taken down because there was a cuss word in the video. So it
Okay,
is
what did you
all,
say?
I didn't say it. Okay, it was not it was a repurposed video, but they do an excellent job at encouraging wholesome content that will stir up your faith and lead you to love and good works in Jesus Christ. So, and the nice thing is it is teen friendly. So, if your teenager's asking you for social media, maybe just start with TUVU and you can get a free 30-day trial in the show notes below, but please join the TUVU Christian digital community that I keep raving about.
There you go.
All right, Jen, anything else that you want to talk about today before we let our listeners go?
No, I think that covers it. We gotta leave some material for next time,
I know. I think we wanted to cover the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni drama
Oh my
and
gosh.
dissect that a little bit, and Jimmy Carter's funeral and the
Oh, that's
song that
right.
you just cannot stand. And I
Oh.
am so excited to hear about this.
Well, that might be kind
Um,
of old news, but yes, I hate the song Imagine. Imagine if there's no heaven. Imagine if there is no religion. no cause to die for. Like, what would our lives be like? What would our faith be like if there was
Oh,
no
yeah.
heaven? I mean,
I
that's
mean,
so depressing.
I would be in despair.
Oh my
Like, what do I
gosh.
have
And
to
no
look
cause to
forward
die for.
to?
Like, I have three beautiful children and Jesus Christ, who I would happily lay down my life for. If I didn't have those things in my life would be pointless. It's a depressing song. They played it at Jimmy Carter's funeral. And I know it's popular with kind of the boomer crowd, I guess.
Yeah.
But and I tweeted about this, how I think it was a really inappropriate song, particularly for a funeral, particularly in a church. I expected to get canceled, but I actually kind of went semi-viral because I said it.
Well, not just from that post, but you made a post about Buc-ee's. That post had, like, I don't know, like, millions of views or something. It had,
Oh
like,
my gosh.
100,000
It
likes.
went nuts. Let me look at it because that was
The
hilarious.
Gulf of Buc-ee's, is that
My
what it was?
stupid Buc-ee's tweet. Yes. So, for those of you who don't know, Buc-ee's is my favorite gas station. If you can have a favorite gas station, I highly recommend Buc-ee's as a gas station. But I mean, it is a gas station. It's not like, I don't know.
It's not like Wawa, which is a hoagie shop, not a gas station. Just want to put that out there. I'm from Pennsylvania, and if
I
you
don't know
call
what Wawa
Wawa
is.
a gas station, because they're not over in Texas yet.
Oh, okay. Well, is
But
Buc-ee's is in Florida, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think they just came to Florida. So
Have
did
you been to a
Wawa.
Buc-ee's?
Yeah, I like
Oh,
their
okay.
brisket sandwiches. Yeah, no, they're
I mean,
good.
it's good for gas station food. It's amazing.
Yes.
Now their fudge, I will say that their fudge is very nice. They have very, very clean bathrooms. But anyway,
Yes, I
so
love their bathrooms.
the
Favorite pit
bathrooms, the
stop.
best
Yes.
bathrooms ever.
Yes.
So Donald Trump came out saying that he wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
Yeah, as he should.
I
Fine.
honestly
I'm
just
fine
don't.
with it.
I don't even care. Like,
I don't care either.
of all the issues, like we've got Ukraine, we've got Israel, we've got terrorists wandering over the border. Like, I don't care what the Gulf of
Well,
Mexico is
he's doing it
called.
for a reason, though. It has something to do with Biden not wanting to drill and him saying, well, we're going to drill and we're going to extend it to the Gulf of America because this is, I don't know.
Oh, okay. So there's some sort of political, economic
Yeah, there's
reason
a
behind it.
political ploy behind it for sure.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a little more sense. But anyway, I suggested, and I feel kind of bad because I just borrowed this graphic somebody else made off of Facebook.
I was going to say, did you make it? I'm so proud of you if you did.
No. Somebody just took the Buc-ee's logo and put it in the middle of a map of the Gulf, and it says Gulf of Buc-ee's. And then you've got the Jerky Channel, and you've got Nugget Bay, and I guess that's all. I would have, if I had made it, there would have been a lot more jokes. Like, I would have renamed a lot more places because I don't know when to stop.
Funny.
I don't know when to stop. And so, but yes, it's the Gulf of Buc-ee's. And I said, this is an interesting proposition. And it has 131,000 likes, almost 10,000 retweets, and nearly 6 million views.
It's insane, Jen.
It's
so tell me, what's your trick? Because I think I just got to 100 followers on X. Like, I just can't figure X out. I don't know what it is.
Part of the irritation I have with actually all social media is that as soon as you start figuring it out, it changes.
Yeah.
I hate change. I don't like change. I don't know. Like, just leave it alone. Like, make it better. That's fine. But stop moving the buttons. Stop changing how the algorithm works. Like, I was just catching on. I have no idea why that went viral. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I love that it did. And one of the first comments is Mr. President, and it has a picture of Buck Eland, like for England. Like, we should take over England next. I mean,
honestly, concerns like people are talking about annexing Canada. I have no idea what that even means. So, but here's one thing that I do not want. I'm not a huge fan of Trudeau, Justin Trudeau. Like,
me neither.
The best thing about the guy is his hair. He has very nice hair, but that's it. That's where I draw the line. And I'm sorry, Canadians, if you're listening to this, but I don't like the way that they vote. I don't want them voting in American elections. I don't want your leader. And so, that probably sounds mean, But that's where I stand.
Did you know, and I agree with you, but did you know that there's a huge conspiracy theory surrounding Justin Trudeau's dad?
Oh, I'm sure. Wasn't he raised by a single mom or something like that?
Yeah, she apparently
She's
was
really weird.
some gold digging Jezebel, possibly.
Well, I saw an interview with her, and I don't know, maybe she's gotten better since that interview, but not a nice person.
No, well, there's pictures of her with, drum roll, please. Do it. Do the drum roll. Thank you. With Cuban leader Fidel Castro around the same time that she got pregnant with Justin Trudeau, and his parents names, hold on one second, are Pierre Trudeau and Margaret Trudeau, were swingers at that time.
Oh.
So there's a possibility that Justin Trudeau is actually Fidel Castro's son biologically. And if you look at him and Fidel Castro as young men, they actually look a lot alike.
I mean, going back to the hair,
Yeah.
Fidel Castro has a lot of hair.
Pierre Trudeau doesn't. So if we just go by hair alone.
Yeah, he's shaved. If he had a beard, it's weird though. Like, I always found Fidel Castro really hideous, mainly because I know that he's a terrible person. But if you actually look at his younger photos, like when he was a young man, he's not bad looking.
A little disclaimer, this show is based off of our own opinions and is for educational, entertainment, and discussion purposes, as well as advocacy purposes. So I'm not saying this is true. I'm just trying to entertain you right now, actually. Can't take my video down.
Well, Justin just resigned, so...
As he should.
Yes. Very sad. Maybe he could go into acting. I mean, between his ability to lie while looking good, could be a natural career.
I mean, I'm looking at pictures of him. It's not that I don't think he's attractive.
I know too much about
not my type. Yeah. When you know something about someone's character and it's just ugly, then it doesn't matter how pretty they are on the outside. They're just ugly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Well, I think it's interesting to me because Gavin Newsom's the same type of personality.
Yeah.
And really, so is Obama. I mean, and I think a lot of progressive leaders, they get in office on their charisma and their looks. I'm not saying they're not smart. What I'm saying is they're corrupt. But they get into office because they look attractive, they sound attractive, they're charming. And then you wind up with programs like me.
Silver-tongued serpents.
What they are. Yeah.
I mean, it even goes back to the shift that we're seeing in mainstream media. These Gavin Newsom and Justin Trudeau had a certain narrative that they pushed very hard during COVID. And now Justin Trudeau stepped down. Gavin Newsom's career's on the line.
I think after these fires, I'm really hoping that him and that mayor gal will be forced to step down, or at least any future hope of presidency for him will be in the can, because we do not want... I visited California. I love California. I used to live there, visited there last summer, actually. Landed in San Francisco. We drove up our coast. Beautiful country. It is overwhelmed by homeless drug addicts. You cannot walk down the street without seeing somebody passed out, taking a crap, high out of their minds, talking to people who aren't there. It's bad. It's really bad.
They literally have an app to report human feces on the streets.
Yes, they have a poop app.
Well, when you need that, that's how you know that your state's going down the crap. I am on a roll today, y'all. All right. Well, we were going to save Jimmy Carter's funeral music choice opinions for next week, but you guys got it on it today.
There it is. Yeah, it wasn't that much. I mean, it's just basically that Imagine is basically, it's an anti-Christian, anti-religion, communist manifesto.
So I like it.
To a catchy melody. I just don't think it's appropriate for a funeral, but whatever.
I mean, to each their own, I guess. But that's just not my choice.
Somebody suggested that at the next presidential funeral, they play Live and Let Die.
That's hilarious. That's a good one. I would like to see that. I mean, whoever's going next might as well at this point be for entertainment purposes only.
Oh my God.
Well, anyway, y'all. So until next time, I want you some call to actions for you guys. Okay, go join TUVU so that way you can have wholesome content pushed to you instead of the garbage OnlyFans content that's pushed to us on mainstream social media. Join my Bold Child Advocate course to equip yourself on how to identify and respond to abuse so you can save kids, because that's what this is all about. It's saving kids from trauma. So until next time, go save a kid.
Absolutely.